Hey guys, welcome. I'm super psyched to introduce you to a good friend of mine. I'd say industry expert. If anything, just a super inspiring story and a super cool guy. So welcome everyone. Welcome Rami. Glad to have you on the show, man.
Good to see you, Rick.
Appreciate you coming all the way up.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, I drove 4 miles to get here. It was a long day.
But how's it? Yeah, that's an hour in Atlanta traffic.
Exactly. I left yesterday.
Slept over, got a hotel.
It's funny. I was trying to think about how long we've known each other, and it's been a really long time. I think I was about 14 when we met. But
yeah. You already had your gym open. Amazing.
I did.
Yeah. Now it's been about 20 years.
It has.
Yeah,
it has.
Well, listen. I want to be. Today, I want everyone to hear your whole story because it's very inspiring, and I think everybody wants your end game that you've reached, right? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, but it certainly wasn't easy, and I think just hearing sort of your journey overall is going to be very inspiring for everyone. But let's start, not from the raw beginning, but kind of finishing college. And there's a blind spot for me as well. I don't fully know your overall story, so I'd love to hear it. So, what drew you to fitness and specifically personal training?
Cool. Fitness in general, I've participated in a bunch of sports, all of them fringe, as you know. So
motocross,
motocross, triathlon, long distance running, never really team sports. And I actually worked in corporate America, and I don't even know if you'd know that. So
I did not know
wore
that.
a suit and tie for 4 years.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got out of graduate school. And
now, what'd you go to graduate school for?
Industrial psychology.
No kidding.
Yeah, my friends from New York say, you know how to tell people why they push the broom.
I love it.
So basically it was human resource management, that kind of thing. So got out of grad school, ended up getting a job in Florida. And at the time I was a full-time triathlete. Everybody else would go to the bars after work and I'd go ride my bike 40 miles.
Yeah.
And I was very much the odd person at work. And I tell this story, I've told it 1,000 times, what changed me in my career. I was in a corporate meeting. You never really had a full-time corporate job, have you?
I've never. This is the only job I've ever had.
That's you dressing up, right?
That's
there.
it. This is me. It. Collared shirt, no pants. This is me.
Neither of us are wearing pants. No,
that's right. Yeah. Side note.
So I was in this meeting. It was 10 hours long. Imagine 10 hours with a bunch of managers, and we were waiting because we had nothing to do. Typical meeting, and the conversation came up: if you had to do your life over, what would you do? Just a random conversation.
Yeah.
And it went around the room and I could not believe what people said. I mean, these were most of them above me. So I was in my late 20s. These were guys in their 50s. They said things, Rick, like I would have been a gardener. I would have owned a hardware store. I would have, been in completely different of what they were doing.
Interesting.
And I was 29 and they were in their 50s, married with kids, came around to me. I didn't even answer. The room answered for me. They said, oh, he'd be in fitness because I was known as the fitness guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I went home that night. Literally, I had 4 years into my career. I was progressing, doing well. And I said, well, I'm 29. I'm not married, no ties. And I applied back to graduate school the next day. So I literally went back to grad school, University of Miami, go Canes, and left the job. And never looked back. And that was in 89. So I literally made the decision in one day. Now, I think the genesis of those are a little longer, right?
Yep.
So I've been thinking about it.
Training and
but I didn't know there was a way to make a living in it.
There wasn't.
There was not.
You and I kind of started I started personal training in 90.
Yeah.
Right. So
there was nothing.
Yeah. You had to explain what a trainer even was back then.
Yeah. Well, back then you'd think of the guys on TV with the rich housewives kind of deal.
Yeah.
I never got that, man. I never got that.
I actually had a brush with that. Yeah.
We'll have another podcast for that.
Yeah. Separate podcast.
And so anyway, I went to graduate school and my original thought was I would go into corporate America, kind of corporate wellness, or maybe exercise physiologist in a hospital, use my corporate background and also exercise. And I did an internship in a gym when I started as a trainer. And I loved it. I think the biggest thing I loved was seeing instant impact for what you did, which in corporate America, you don't see at all.
Yeah.
If ever.
Yes.
So it was like, wow, I can work with somebody for 10 weeks and change their life. So
isn't that cool? I think I want everybody to hear this. You've gone through this as well when you run into personal trainers that are in the trenches.
Yep.
And they're like, man, I would love to be in your spot now, right? Either owning a gym or going out and speaking, things like that. And it's if you don't love what you're doing now,
Yep.
Like I loved personal training.
Yeah.
And so did you.
Yeah.
And as I've evolved, I've never fallen out of love with it. I didn't move on because I could do something different. I don't know how you feel about it, but I always loved working with clients. Like selfishly, that was the easiest thing I ever did.
Yeah. In fact, when you run a gym, it's a break. You know, it's literally like, oh, I get to get on the floor and have fun and talk to people. Thank God I don't have to look at my computer anymore, you know?
100%. So, all right. So you had this epiphany, so you start training folks, and you're probably, I mean, I know you, good guy, good sense of humor, so you probably hit it all. It was like easy for you, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did well, and it was interesting. I was thinking about it on the way up. You'll love this stat because you and I love numbers. It was a 25,000 foot gym that we worked in. Kind of a regular gym, sort of like Gene's Body Tech used to be, with 26 full-time trainers.
What?
All doing one-on-one, 1 hour sessions.
So just dog eat dog, like get in there and market yourself and see if you can make
and it was so funny. We used to complain, and our cut, our pay, you know, like you used to take percentages or whatever, was $280 a month. And we used to complain about
rent?
That was our rent. No matter what you trained.
Everything else, you ate what you killed, so to speak.
You literally took cash. We had a guy, he was the most successful guy. He had a little fanny pack, and he would collect by session, cash or check, $70 a session. And this is what, 25 years ago?
Wow, yeah.
And he'd have this fanny pack full of money at the end. He did 12 1-hour sessions a day, 6 days a week. Do the math, right? So how crazy is that? So I actually met my wife there. She was working there as well. And we moved to Atlanta in 94. And I started
so you were in
the
industry in Miami before you moved up here?
Yeah. So that's what was my internship. Sorry, cool. So I was a trainer down there for the whole 2 years I was at U of M. So got a graduate degree in exercise science. It was great, loved it. Amazing. Anybody who wants to do it, going back to school for something you actually like is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? Like I remember like looking forward to classes, which had never happened before.
Right.
So it was a great program, really good guys came out of there. You know some of the guys that have come out of that program. And so got done, didn't want to live in Miami, moved here, and I started working in gyms. And I did what everybody else did. You know, I worked in large gyms, worked at Gene's Body Tech, worked at Concourse Athletic Club, Peachtree Athletic Club, Athletic Club Northeast, full-time trainer, paying 50% of what I did to the gym, you know, and I was successful. I mean, a differentiator back then, and it's not as much now, was having a graduate degree. Right. Yeah. So basically what would happen was anytime there was anything out of the ordinary, somebody injury, somebody had cancer, somebody was very overweight, give it to Rami.
Right.
Because he's got ACSM certification and a graduate degree.
Yep.
Right.
Hey man, that's good.
It worked.
It's a great differentiator, especially in that dog eat dog environment.
Well, because a lot of people will say, you know, why would I go to grad school to be a trainer? And I said, well, I can tell you my story, and our business would not have existed if I hadn't had a master's degree. And I'll talk about that, like how we built it in the beginning. But so bounced around, did that for probably about 2 or 3 years. That was the Olympics, so it was great. It wasn't hard to get clients back in the mid-90s. Yeah. That's when the guys at the concourse, I would sit and watch them make $30,000 at lunch buying and selling Yahoo. Do you remember that?
Yep.
You know, so like they weren't worried about $60 an hour for a personal trainer.
Exactly, yeah.
So around 97, I got kind of burnt out in the gym environment. So I decided to do what every trainer does and do in-home training.
Yep.
Sounds great, right? You and I have laughed about this so many times. Yeah. I remember thinking, I'm going to charge $80 an hour and I'm going to get to keep it all. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. So, and I can remember I had a day, and we're up here near Country Club of the South. And if you know Atlanta, I live in Sandy Springs, about 7 miles away, or like you said, 3 hours of driving. And I would go from 6 o'clock in the morning, I would be in Buckhead for a client, which is 15 miles south of where I live. Then I'd go to Stone Mountain, which is 20 miles east of where I live. Then I would come up here. Then I would have the whole day off, which sounds great, but it's not. Then I would come back up here to the same client. So I trained the wives in the morning and the husbands at night. So it sounds great, right? And you know, but then you finally start doing the math of what you're spending and your time and how much hours you're actually working.
Yeah.
You know, that's the deal, right? So that was a great lesson. And that's really a good thing, because I can't tell you how many coaches I've had over the years. By the way, I counted it when I sold my business, jumping ahead to what we do. And I've had over 110 coaches work for me.
Nice.
So I can't tell you how many of them said, why am I doing this when I could be out doing in-home training? And I say, hey man, go for it. Let me tell you my experience.
Yep.
So I got to do it. And I did it for about 2 years, which is a long time.
Yep.
So in that time, I started thinking about opening my own facility. I knew nothing I took 0 business classes in school. I knew a lot of physiology
Right.
and nutrition and,
Right.
microbiology. That helps a lot when you're negotiating a lease, right? I could tell you how actin and myosin works in a muscle, So I started looking for a place, did it all on my own. At the time I still remember the numbers, I had 12 in-home clients myself, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 3 times a week was people. It was a decent business. Found a place in Dunwoody, kind of an office, sort of a strip center like this, was more medical oriented. Took a downstairs place, it was 2,200 square feet. I opened that place February 15th of 99 with me and 12 clients. You know what that's like.
Yep.
They don't care that, first month rent is due,
Right.
all that. And it was really, really hard. I mean, I didn't know anything about marketing. Everything I did was guerrilla marketing.
Right.
There was no internet marketing. There wasn't even an internet back then, was there, Rick?
Oh, God.
Was there?
We're going to go
When
there
did
for
I
real?
know.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I didn't
man.
even have an
Yeah.
internet. I was doing that with my kids.
Can you
the other
really,
day.
is it really appropriate to do a podcast about there being no internet?
I know.
It
That's
seems
like,
odd, right?
yeah.
There wasn't even this. We could never do this. Right?
I know. We would just sit in a room and talk,
Right. Go figure.
So started it then, tried to build it. Getting back to the graduate degree, I had been offered a part-time job at Northside Hospital at the time. And the only reason I got offered that job was because I had a graduate degree in exercise science. They wanted a part-time exercise physiologist. And I thought, that sounds great. What a great way to market my new gym. So unbeknownst to them, I was taking the job 100% to sell my business.
Of course, yeah.
To patients at Northside Hospital.
Right.
And of course, I did what they wanted me to do, and I loved it. I ended up staying there for 10 years.
Oh, man.
I worked about 4.
I remember.
Yeah,
you
I
were
worked
there when
about
we met.
4 to 10 hours a week, teaching classes. I worked in their outpatient weight loss program. I worked with bariatric patients,
Yep.
and then diabetes education.
Right.
There's our clientele, right?
Exactly. Yep.
On average, I remember you and I sitting down once years ago, and we were talking about getting leads. And you're like, how many, leads, how many phone numbers did you get last month? And I'm like, I had a bad month. I got like 120. And you were like, what? Now, we defined leads a little different back then.
Right.
If it was a warm body who gave me their phone number, that was a lead. Now
that was a hot.
that
lead.
was
like
really
yeah.
exciting.
That was like a 70% conversion rate.
Oh, yeah.
Digital leads are a completely different ballgame.
So different. It's so funny. Now we don't even define them as a lead till they step in the gym.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
a prospect before they do that. But anyway, so that I would say 80% of our new clients came from there. And it didn't even cost me money. I actually made money while I was doing it.
Oh, that's
They were
cool.
paying me. And at the time became part of their speakers bureau. So I was presenting almost once a week. And again, the only thing I negotiated when I worked there was, I'll do anything you say, but at the end, can I just offer them a free training session at my gym? They loved it.
Very cool.
They loved it. So built up the business,
Yeah. Tell me about that. So so you were growing. I think this is at the time that you and I met, right? It's
like early
your
2000s.
Gym, your
Yep.
gym was
I
like,
opened in 99.
your gym was cranking.
Yeah.
So we had opened
Yeah.
in 92. We had already had our hiccup. So when I met you,
Yeah.
we were sort of on the down. We were on the upside of our J curve, but we had already just passed the trough and we're climbing our way back up. Right. So it's like, I was looking at you like, wow, I was there 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Now I almost went out of business and I'm just clawing my way back.
Yeah.
So I was looking at what you were doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Why didn't you give me warning, dude? What's come in? You were not a good friend.
I didn't see it, man. You could do no wrong. I was like, man, this guy's killing. He's really smart.
Well,
like I was looking to you for any ideas or pointers. So tell me about you built the business. What was the peak of that business?
Yeah. So because I've run these numbers over 1,000 times in my head, our first 8 years, we grew 30% a year.
Year over year.
Year over year. We had 2 years we grew over 100%.
Nice.
So that, in the beginning, I mean, it's easy. First year to second year, we doubled, right? So that's always easy. A lot harder to double the next time. But 30% on average, incredible margins. We had 2,200 square feet. We outgrew that in about 4 years. So instead of moving, we added a wing on the building. Our landlord loved it.
That,
bumped up our rent and added another 1,500. So we went to 3,700 square feet. At our peak in 2007, how many people say that in today's world that have been in business? At our peak in 2007,
Yeah, right.
How many realtors say that, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We were doing over $1 million in personal training
Yep.
with 30% margins. And ironically, and we love talking about this, all one-on-one,
Yep.
all half-hour sessions.
Yep. Same
So
thing.
2,500 sessions a month.
What year was that? 27?
That was 2017.
Yeah, that was
our
us
peak.
in 98.
Wow.
Yeah. Same
Wow.
thing. Same numbers,
Yeah.
same structure,
Yeah.
30-minute one-on-ones, all the same.
I had 15 trainers, 2 front desk staff, so I had 17 employees. And so logically, I started looking for a bigger place.
Of course.
I mean,
yeah.
I looked at the math. I said, hey, we had a couple years where we grew 15%, but overall 30%. I sat with you. We talked about it forever. We were meeting on a regular basis. And I said, look, man, given this growth, we're going to be doing $2 million a year in, 5 years.
Right.
So we need a bigger place. My rule was I wanted to be getting 5 complaints a day before I moved. So I wanted,
just based on,
I just wanted
from
my
clients
people
being too
so upset.
squeezed. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we would have trainers waiting in line for the leg extension. Remember that? Right. Because they couldn't
There's
reprogram.
so many things wrong with that. I don't even know where to start.
The leg extension's bad. Waiting in line is bad. The fact that they can't think of another exercise.
All this is bad. Right.
All bad.
But at the time, it was awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody did the leg press on Mondays, that was the deal. Right.
Yeah,
so people were complaining. I did market surveys. I surveyed our clients. I surveyed literally like where our clients lived versus the new place. So I could literally tell them, you're moving 2 miles.
Right.
Right. So I wanted to ease it because moving is massive.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, looking back
disruptive.
on it, very disruptive. And so found a great place, found a condo, made a decision to buy it instead of renting. Today, I look like a genius. If you had asked me 5 years ago and, asked my family, they would have been like, he's a moron. I'd like to say I bought my building the day the market peaked, in 2008, right?
Oof, yeah,
So,
I remember that. Yeah, well, now I'm caught up because I remember this.
You remember
thing.
This whole process.
So you found was it 7,000 square feet?
Yeah,
so you found a space,
just under
7,000 square feet, and you bought the building.
Bought the building and we built it. So it was an empty space. We left 21-foot high ceilings.
Right.
We built the bathrooms. We built the offices. Yep. We made it exact because we were in an office.
Sure.
Drop ceilings. We kind of retrofitted.
Yep.
And we wanted it to be a gym.
Yep.
And it was perfect for
still
what we
personal
wanted.
Training only, like
all personal training.
Same structure, a little bit different, but yeah.
But all one-on-one.
Right.
And it's funny looking back on it. That whole time, you were really moving into group training at the time, and I was like, dude, you're crazy. I said that's never going to work.
That's never going to work.
It's never going to work. And remember, we used to compete. We would compare revenue numbers, and we would be so close. And I'd be like, oh, I'm just killing this guy with my one-on-one training,
Yeah.
And I was a slow-moving ship. It was really hard for me to turn. Let's fast forward. So we moved in June of 2008. So let's think about this for a minute. June of 2008, we're at our peak. We're going to do another year over $1 million, great revenue, not great margins because we just doubled our operating expenses.
Exactly.
Right? Now I'm taking on a mortgage. Who thought about, I thought about a lot. I did a pro forma, but electricity went from $600 a month to $1,200. Everything basically doubled.
Yeah.
And what happened in October 2008?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and who knew?
Short.
Who knew? Yeah, I should have shorted everything. You shorted Formwell back then? I knew you did.
I did.
So, ironically, thinking back, I remember being at the beach in October on break with our kids, and the whole thing was happening, the whole meltdown. And there was a guy there in finance. And he looked at me and said, I'm not going home. It's over. I said, what do you mean it's over? He goes, it's over. Everything's over. This country is over. The whole world is over. And I was like, it's just a recession. That's what I kept telling myself. Because you think about it, we did business in 99. We went through 9/11. We went through the recession in 2002. We went through recession in, I think, 2004. There was a bunch. And, what did you do back then? You got a line of credit. You tightened things up. You maybe cut some staffing. You wrote it out for 6 to 9 months, and then you came back.
Right.
Who knew it would be 5 years?
Right.
And the mistake, thinking back on it, that I made is I applied the same thing that had worked in the past. I just worked harder.
Right.
I'm just going to work harder. I'm going to keep my 15 employees. I'm going to keep everything the same. I'm going to cut my salary because we all know that's what you do. So that was 2008. Ironically, we really didn't get hit till 10 because back then, this is another funny part, everybody pre-bought sessions. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Right? So we would sell, did you ever sell 100 at a time?
I did.
Yeah.
That's how, for us, that's what led to EFT billing because people would buy 100.
Yeah.
Then they would ask to finance it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, our answer was, look, you can, but your payments have to stay ahead of your usage. Right. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. This looks a lot like monthly billing. So why don't we just go to that? That's
Same
literally
thing
how
with
it
us.
evolved. Okay.
Same thing with us. But still back then, we literally, when the economy was good, we would have clients numerous times walk in, now a referral, so they knew friends there, knew nothing about our gym, didn't do a free session, and buy a $10,000 package.
Yep.
10,000, put it on their Amex card. This is in 06, 07, So the reason it didn't hit us is we had a lot of built up cash flow.
Yep.
So we had, all that. But when those people came to do another $5,000 or $10,000 package, they were gone. I mean, we had 320 active members at that time. So average EFT was over 300, which was great, right? And 50 of them were realtors.
Oof.
Probably another 50 were in the real estate industry, mortgage brokers,
builders,
real estate,
custom home builders,
all that. Home builders. I mean, there were suicides back then with home builders. I mean, it was, people have forgotten how bad it was.
Rough.
Yeah, I haven't. And so, every time somebody came up, I just watched those numbers go down. I mean, it was really tough, bro. You know that.
No, I remember that time period for you. So where are you now? You've got this brand new built building.
Yeah.
Got your staff.
This is like, let's say this is 10.
Right. Yep. So how long did that period last for you? Like, this is the big hiccup, right? I think we all, like, if you're going to be in business for 20, 25 years,
you're going to have it.
You're going to have some downturns. So, how long did that period last? And what was give me a story or an example of like the lowest of the low.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Rick. I'm going to start crying.
Well, no, I just want people to know.
It's important.
And listen, this thing has a happy ending. So as we get to that, I want people to understand like how low you can get and how if you just can reframe your mindset and pull up your bootstraps, how you can dig your way out. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean you always should. There's a time when maybe you should just fucking walk away, right?
Yeah,
I mean, honestly.
I got really close.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
But that wasn't an option for you, and you did the work. But I want to know, like, what was the point when you thought, all right, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm done, right?
It's funny. You and I have such a sense of humor. It's what keeps us alive. And I was when I was cleaning out the business, I was looking at all the projects I did. Oh my Lord! Like, dude, remember I was CrossFit for a while, and you were like, "Who are you? Are you Formwell or are you CrossFit?"
That's
you remember? I did that for 2 years. You said you've lost your
chops
voice
on this. Yeah, I didn't know you were CrossFit.
I was CrossFit, like CrossFit endurance within my gym.
And you had a third-party PT company that came in.
Yeah,
that was it.
You remember that?
I remember just thinking, what were you doing? But you were scrambling.
I was scrambling. I mean, I was trying to make. It's a mortgage. It's very different than rent, right? And it's big number. And so we had Zumba. Imagine.
You had Zumba?
We had Zumba. We had a dance company.
I can't believe you're on this podcast.
I know.
How did you get here?
I had a dance company who rented in the afternoons from us. Then you said, like, I had a gym he got kicked out of his gym. He had 10 trainers and he rented my space.
So you had a competitor under the same roof.
In my gym. And the worst trainers you ever seen. That was actually a good thing because all the clients came out to me and go, "We had no idea how good you guys were," because they had never been anywhere else, right? I was like, "This is perfect."
This poor guy had no idea you were making him look bad.
I know. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. I won't use his name. So, so we did. I mean, suffice it to say, we did everything. And again,
we were in close contact during this time.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, man, like now seeing where you are, I can remember having conversations with you, and sometimes you just need an ear, right? I didn't really even know what to tell you at the time. And half the time we would, and I don't think I've ever told you this, but when we would finish our conversations, I would just have a pit in my stomach. Like I didn't see, honestly,
a way out.
I didn't know if you're going to make it or not. I really didn't. Just because I was, everybody, you sort of, put yourself in that situation and you think about how you would react and what you would do. And I would just get this pit in my stomach because we had such a, similar career trajectory. I'm like, ugh.
This could be me.
Like I would move to Thailand and never come back. Like I don't know what I would do, right? And you just kept like just firing these bullets and trying to find your range and trying to figure it out. I was just like, man, I felt for you big time.
Beautiful home in Sandy Springs. I have two kids in private school. I mean, I have a monthly nut, and those things were so important to me. Not so much the house. I could live in a tent, but the private school was like the last possible thing, and I don't want to ask for money. And so, it was really, really tough. And again, I did some things right, but I also really was stubborn. And that, if you can get any lessons out of this, you got to listen to other people when it's like that. But it's so hard when you've been so successful. Exactly.
It can be your worst enemy. I mean, it's cliche to say that.
Everything I did.
But now when you read statements like that, you're like, that's so freaking true.
Yeah. Like if I could have gone back, it's like if I could have listened to the people around me. And, it was just, me, I've got a fair amount of determination. I run ultra marathons for a hobby, so obviously I'd like to get things done.
We won't talk about that a lot today.
Really? I thought that would be the second half of the podcast.
Listen, I'll just let everybody listening know, I mean, if you like to go and run 100 miles on the weekend for shits and giggles, you're probably not right in the head, but you might be really well suited to the personal training business.
Exactly. I also tell people if I didn't do that, I'd be a lot worse. So everybody's got to have something that does. That's my medication. So, So you asked about the bottom, like really, we continued to go down, ironically, about 30% a year. So imagine that. So went
Same
from
trajectory.
1 million to 700 to 6 or 550, same trajectory, trying to cut expenses.
Bigger nut, like
way
just,
bigger.
Yep.
You know, I could cut employees. I could,
Yeah,
turn
but
the air
only to a
conditioning
certain
off.
extent, right?
Yeah. You can't, what do they say? You can't save your way out of a bad
That's true.
situation. And I really couldn't. And so around 2014, you and I have been meeting. So you're going to come into this story. So, I'm actually going to give you props. Cannot believe it.
Yes,
So
finally.
can we cut that part out?
Can we just start with that? Like, this is all this other stuff is wasted time.
It's all about Rick. So in like 2014, I was done. Now remember, I was really done in 13, but I funded the company.
So you were coming.
I had saved a lot of money,
and you were pulling out of personal savings to cover the nut, and
paying for private school out of the kids' college money. I mean, really, I'm very open about all this because I want people to know, but I was out. I was done. I had used it all. I started thinking about getting another corporate job. Remember, we owned the building, so my $1 million building was now worth about 600 because that was the bottom of the real estate market too. So we started looking at short selling the building. I used to tell people I have a really profitable business in 2,000 square feet. Unfortunately, I have 7,000.
Right.
So we talked about it. You and I talked about it. And I was like, look, let me just go back to my roots. Let me get this mortgage off. Let me move the business back into a small business, and let me do something else to make money. And started doing it. Talked to a realtor, talked to an attorney, started the process. You and I met. And I remember this day succinctly, that's not the right word. Distinctly, one of those words together. Right, yeah. Remember, I went to the University of Miami. So you got to give me a little, the you. And you said, let's give this one more try. You said, I think this has more to do with your mojo than it does the economy. Because by that point, it was 2014, 2015.
We were doing well. So
you guys were doing good.
You're as smart as I am. You're just in a bad place.
Smarter.
You could be smarter, but you were in a bad place, right?
Yeah, I was in a horrible place, and I had lost my mojo, for sure. I had gotten beat up so much, and everything I was doing wasn't working. And you said, I've got an intern that I think could really help you. Bring him in, make him a director of training. Not that because we're going to implement, and stepping back, we had implemented the alloy program, I'd say 50%.
Sure.
Never all in. We didn't do the billing, but I did some of the programming, but we never really, we did it, but not all in. But he had interned under you. So here's a guy who knew what to do.
Right.
Bring him in and let's see what happens. And I said, how the F am I going to pay for him? Like, I don't get a salary. I'm literally not, how am I going to pay a guy? I mean, director of training is $50,000, $60,000 a year for a good one. And we were both like, go into more debt. So I literally went into more debt to make this happen.
I'm sweating. I'm literally sweating.
Right? This was the hardest thing. Imagine Heather's going to listen to this. Like, imagine my wife when I go home and tell her, remember we were going to short sell and everything was going to be fine? I've decided to stay and also take on more debt to hire this guy.
I know Heather. I wouldn't want to have that conversation.
No,
she's a sweetheart, but she doesn't mess around. Yeah, she doesn't mess around.
So I trusted you. I didn't want to give up. I mean, that was the bottom line.
Yeah, that's ultimately
it really was that
competitive grit. Yep. Grit would be a good word.
Yeah,
right?
I'd hate to walk away. I felt like I had already failed. So I was like, what can I learn from this?
Awesome.
So, I hired him. His name's Cody Parks.
Yep.
Good guy.
Great dude,
went through your program. And it was tough, man. Had to go into debt to do it. We revamped everything, a lot due to him. He brought everything and we got rid of our whole staff. By the way, I was down to 4 trainers at this point.
Yeah.
Remember I said I had 15?
Right.
So nobody wanted to be on the new ship. We had to change pay structure. We had to change monthly billing. We went all in on alloys. So here's another props to you. I'd never done it because, I thought I knew better, right? Like I'd done it all my own way with little help from here and there. So we went all in. 2014 was our bottom year. I think we did 250,000 in revenue that year. So think about that, and negative profit. I did 250 my second year in a tiny little place. I mean, our fixed overhead is over $30,000 a month. Fixed.
Right.
So there's no marketing, there's no nothing. So 250 with zero profit, that was 14. Brought him in, and in 15, we were up 10%. That was our first year to go up since 2008.
Cool.
And, made a ton of stuff, worked with Tim Lyons on a lot of that marketing stuff, which was really, really great. Worked with a bunch of people. stepping back, and I know you want to get to sort of a theme. I know we've talked a lot about this, is like what really changed. First of all, I wasn't a lone wolf anymore.
Right.
I had always been a lone wolf. I had mentors and friends and all that, but I had taken on a couple of, equity partners in the business, but it was more about just kind of golden handcuffs,
Yep.
like to keep them there. They weren't really a partner.
Right.
But this time I really took on a partner, and he was compensated as such. I mean, I was paying him more than I was paying me.
Right.
Which is, your listeners are going to be like, huh? But I really still truly believe that we could make it happen. And again, getting back to the personal training, it wasn't, of course it was about the money and making it, but it was really about, I don't want to stop helping people.
Right.
Like that's a beautiful thing to be able to do,
That's awesome.
And so we grew year over year, and then we grew again, and we were profitable because we had implemented such a different model now.
Right.
So that, everybody kept saying, if you make it through this recession, you're going to be bulletproof. Because I learned more in those 4 years about, cost savings and how to compensate employees and what really matters and where to really spend your money, than I did in the previous 9. It's kind of like being in the stock market in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Those people didn't learn much.
Exactly.
Oh, throw a dart. Wow, I just made another $100,000. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, learned a ton, became profitable, and grew year over year until this year. And then something happened.
Yeah. So first of all, let me take a step back. Like, I just have to give you props because you and I are similar. We, for any listeners that are interested, we meet once a month and just have coffee and catch up on, life and what's going on, because I really just enjoy you as a friend. But, it's really hard. Like after we had gone through our hiccup, right? And I'm looking to you for advice.
And yours was a lot shorter.
Yeah, it was.
Ours was 5 years.
Exactly. Ours was probably 2 years, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But I was still, it's like I'm looking up to you and looking to you for advice. And then we go through this transition, and just by virtue of a few choices in a market condition that you can't control, now the roles are flipped, right? Now you're looking to me for advice. So
call you my mentor. How crazy is that? Sorry.
I don't know. If you mentored me first, then I mentored you. Am I really your mentor?
Yeah.
It's like the Matrix. So I don't know. But yeah, I just have to prop you as a person in general to be able to swallow your pride and sort of say, okay, this is somebody that I was helping who now is helping me, right? And be able to accept that help, if that makes sense.
Sure.
That's really hard for people to do.
And really
you basically threw up your hands and just said, at the same time, I think you had some other things going on personally with your faith. And so a lot of these things all aligned for you to be able to say, look, I'm going to put my hands up and I'm just going to trust these other processes and, trust me, which I appreciate. And you hired this guy, and then you just put your head down and got to work, man. Yeah. And I just was, as your business started to grow, I can't tell you how much I admired you. Like, I was so inspired by your grit and your determination, because I honestly had to ask myself, could I do what he's doing right now?
Yeah.
Like, if I went through that, would I be able to withstand that, or would I just crumple?
It's 10 times as hard rebuilding a business. I tell people that, because in the beginning, you have so much bandwidth. You're so excited. 80-hour weeks are nothing, because everything is new and exciting. And, you've never made a business card before, right? Like, everything is fun. You've done it all already. You feel like, I wasn't ready to retire, but I felt like I was there. I was almost ready to move on to the next thing.
Well, but isn't it true? Like, now when you look back on it, like, are you ever there? Like,
no,
you're never there.
Never.
And the fact that you thought you were there might have been one of the issues, right?
Yeah.
And I've been in that same situation.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Even in 98, I'd already been in business 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I've got this figured out. This
I got to figure it out.
Cake, right?
Kiss of death.
Right, exactly. And at that very moment, it's like you get a reality slap, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So, okay, so you scratch your way back. You're making money. You have a right-hand man, if you will, who's a part of the business, and he's running processes, and you're teaching him how the ropes and all this. So how did this thing end up ultimately? And your story is certainly not over, but with this particular gym and this comeback, what happened?
Right. So I'm glad you mentioned my faith. I know we said we could talk about that a little bit.
Man.
And that really is what kept me alive. I wasn't like depressed or anything like that, but I certainly wasn't happy.
Right.
In 2008, the same year I moved and bought the building, I converted to Catholicism.
Oh, interesting.
My wife is Catholic. Our kids were going to Catholic school. It's funny, you'll love this. I actually went to RCIA, the conversion process, not because I was going to convert, because I just wanted to learn. And I figured it'd be an easy way. I was auditing the course, right? Like, I literally was just going to go for 9 months.
That's so you.
It's so me. It was free, I was like, this is cool. I can learn all about it. could answer all the questions, fell in love with the faith, converted that year. So at the same time, all I was going through, I went through but looking back on it, that was God working in my life because I got a part of a men's group. I became part of a massive, wonderful community at St. Jude down in Sandy Springs who really helped me through it.
Right.
I mean, these guys, when I was down, 30 of them came over to my house and prayed on me.
Well, yeah. And I saw a difference in you, right?
Yeah.
There was like a different level of conviction and just, I don't even know. I say grit, maybe it's inappropriate for this type of conversation, but like, listen, all of our listeners certainly aren't Catholic, Christian, doesn't even matter, right? But what would your advice be? Is it to just find that support group or that higher power, whatever that may be for you? Like,
yes, something outside yourself. So that's really, really important. At the same time, I wrote my books, which are about spirituality and running and that whole situation. I wrote all about it. That community, but it's got to be a real community, not a Facebook community, not some, and I think that's a lot of what we do in our gyms, but that level of people that truly care about you, that they're not doing it to make themselves look good or whatever, they really do. It's so valuable. So, and again, going back to being a lone wolf, I never needed that before.
Exactly.
Look, every sport I've ever done has been individual.
Right.
Nobody helps you racing motorcycles. They help you in the beginning, but nobody's out there with you, know? And everything had worked out okay. And guess what? I hit my limit of what Rami could do by himself.
Yeah.
And thank God, like you said, I was in an environment that said, it's okay. Don't be prideful. It is okay to reach out for help, reaching out to you, reaching out to my community. And then that's what got me through. It really did. And to this day, I mean, things are way better now. I don't ever forget that.
Right.
I had a best friend who was going through, he was in real estate in South Florida. How about that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of where it started. Right?
Yeah, exactly where he made it happen. I told him all the time. And we coach each other all the time and say, don't forget. Like you said, don't get complacent. You're never done.
Just when you don't know.
No. So that was a great process.
All said and done.
Yep. So
you find a support group. You align yourself personally in the right way. You built the thing back, and then
great guy, rebuilt our team. We always had great teams. I always pride ourselves on having really good trainers, but we didn't have trainers that were ready for this new model.
Right.
We had very independent. Imagine, like me.
Right.
I hired a bunch. I was like, I remember I would hire people. I'd give them leads. I didn't have to do anything else.
Right.
They were their own little silos, their own little businesses. Right. That's not our model anymore.
Right.
We do all that for them. So, I kind of pride myself now, 20 years of business, having a pretty good intuition, especially with employees. With team members, I try to stay connected to them. I can tell when something's going on. I knew Cody was very vocal that he always wanted to grow as a person. We grew. We did a lot of things. He's with me about 4 years. And we started talking about what's next. And you had been doing the work with Anthony at the time about opening a second location.
Yes, I just had him on the last podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Was he as funny as me?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
Yeah, better looking.
Hear that
goes without saying.
Way better shape. So, I started talking to you about it. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about that model. Let me propose it to Cody because we could keep him in the Formwell family, but he could have his own place, maybe up and coming where he lives.
Right.
Have a second location. I'll have part of it. Eventually, it'll be his. So we actually went through the whole process. You and I drew up a whole plan. I presented it to him. He loved it, thought it was a great idea. We met down here at a coffee shop. And he said, let me go talk to my wife. And, it had some buy-in, but it wasn't, it was still going to be mine, a second location. I was just ready to expand, right?
Yep.
And he comes back the next day and says, my wife and I talked about it. And we want to buy Formwell. I said, what do you mean? This, Rick, was not on my radar.
Oh, interesting.
It was.
I didn't even know that.
No,
as much as I was involved.
Well,
in that,
I was happy
no
again, right? I was loving what I was doing again.
You're making money.
Enjoying going to work. Great team. Loved everybody on my team.
Right.
Was able to have a life.
Numbers are looking good. You're growing. Profits are good.
Everything was really, really good. And I'm like, huh?
Perfect time to sell, actually.
Right. Well, now I know that.
Yeah.
And of course, I was like, what? You're 30 years old? Like, how are you going to get the money? So I said, you know what? Ready, fire, aim, right? Let's just start this process. I have a good friend who owns a valuation company, so that helped a ton.
Yep.
You helped me a lot with that. We've started the negotiation in September of last year, of 18. Didn't tell anyone, by the way.
Smart.
Smart, but so hard. Because now, remember, I'm this new guy who looks for help, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, I got to go back to being a lone wolf. My attorney, my accountant, and you knew that was it.
Yeah.
You know, because way too small of a world. We know that going through the process. So we started, you know, I'm thinking it's a small business. There's a couple of things, you know, we own the building, so we had to negotiate a lease as well. So now we're going to become landlords, which is really cool.
Yep.
I was a landlord, but I was paying myself rent.
You didn't sell the building.
Didn't sell the building, kept the building.
Okay.
I had a company that I was paying myself to before, you know, but obviously I wasn't. I was my own landlord. I was nice to myself, you know. So I thought it'd be like a month or two. We were cracking up now at the end. We're like, oh, we wanted to close by Christmas. You know, starting in September. Took 9 months.
Yeah, it takes some time.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of iterations, a lot of, you know, back and forth, you know, attorneys, the whole deal. And we came to a great number. We came to a great, you know, plan for the money, like how much I would take on, how much he would get from the bank. Moved forward with that, and we sold the business. I just can't believe sometimes when I say this.
Unreal.
From where I was in 2014. Like, let's just step back for a minute.
Right.
2014, I was short selling my building, moving a business was doing about $25,000 a month. To 2019, we're doing $50,000 a month. So we had doubled since then. And we're selling it and keeping the building. And by the way, all real estate has come back. So the building, praise God, is great now too.
Right.
So all that's good. And we closed in April of this year.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
God. And I have to say,
it's weird to tell the story because it still doesn't seem real to me.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, any entrepreneur, like everybody opens a business and we always say like, hey, at least have an exit strategy. Doesn't mean you have to execute it, but you should run your business and you'll have a better business if you run it as if you were going to sell it.
Yep.
Because by the way, if I told you were going to sell your business in a year, you know, what would you do with those toxic employees that were overpaid? You'd get rid of them. Right. What would you do to the extra expenses? You would trim those, right? Like you would align, if you got rid of toxic employees, cleaned up your bottom line, right? Changed your management structure, whatever you need to do, wouldn't that be a better business whether you chose to sell it or not? Right. That's what we always say. And so,
and how cool is it that my hiccup, as you love to call it, I call it more than a hiccup, but you know, caused me to do that.
Well, exactly.
I made a saleable business.
Well, same with me. Like if I hadn't had our near miss go out of business, I wouldn't have a licensing business, right? Because the systems we built ended up being something, you know, a whole separate business. So, but man, I got to tell you, like when we were meeting first in 2014, to think that if somebody that did an internship at our gym, that you could mentor them to the point, and he was the right guy. Yeah,
so he was perfect fit for what we
all
needed.
credit to Cody and his ability to learn and, you know, save money and all the just a dynamite guy. But for you to sort of bring him along within the structure of the business, teach him the ropes, and him to pick it up, and then to be able to sell your business. I mean, I don't think there's a listener here who wouldn't like that option at some point, right? It's to be able to exit and make a multiple on their profits.
Yeah, and as you know, like I'm an integrity-based guy, to sell it to a guy who you know is going to maintain your same values, who all the members already know. So there was literally, and you know, and I told him, and he did. I said, come out of the gate, like revamp this whole place, like come out and be the hero.
He did, man. He's got new branding, new colors. It's like he's fired up. I love it. I see him posting on social media all the time. It's awesome. It's really cool. Yeah,
and that imagine, you know, I don't know if a big corporation had come in.
That's legacy in a lot of ways. It's like you're
kept the name, so that's cool.
Exactly, and you left that footprint, and it still lives without you. Right, and that's something to be said. So props to you, man. I got to tell you, as your friend, it's like, whew.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, riches to rags to riches, and all the grit in between. So you know, we'll wrap it up here, but just beforehand, like looking back on it, any things that you would have done differently to get from there to here?
You know, it's so funny. I was talking to my daughter, who's 14, on the way to school the other day, and we were talking about regrets. You know, middle school and high school kids have lots of regrets
on a daily basis.
And she asked me about it, and I said, you know what? I have zero. I really have zero because everything I've done has brought me to here. Right. So I would not appreciate or have I live a life of gratitude. Like I literally wake up every day before I do anything, I'd say a prayer of gratitude. And I'm grateful. It can be anything. I laugh when I'm driving to school. I'd make my daughter do it too. She's so tired. I'm grateful for coffee, you know? Or she'll just look out the window and go, I'm grateful for a tree, you know, like, but I never was that person. Like I was grateful, but not in this intensity. And so I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't. Awesome. You know, I'd like to say I would have done things quicker, but if I had done things quicker, would I end up where I am today? Now I'm able to move on to another career. at the young age of 84.
Well, let's, So no, great advice. And I think anybody who really is comfortable in their own skin would answer similarly, right? Like, hey, you wouldn't be where you are without the battle scars and the knowledge that you've accumulated during those times and what you proved to yourself. It even turns you towards something more spiritual. There's a lot of really cool things that happen there that will stick with you it is your life, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know what you're doing next, but tell everyone, like, what's your next, like, where are you headed? What's next for Rami?
Yeah.
And how, where can we find you, on the internet? And
I'm planning on powerlifting. I'm going to get to about 400 pounds. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of day drinking, tanning,
You really are.
I am pretty tan right now. It's kind of funny.
I see you on social media. It's like a beer in your feet and some water.
I know.
Like, what are you
People
doing?
Really
get a job.
You wrote, get back to work.
Get back to work. What the hell are you doing?
And then Heather, I think, emphasized that. So, it's funny. Again, we had a conversation when I sold it and I said, I'm going to take some time off. Yeah. I literally had not had more than 10 days off in 20 years. Oof. Yeah. So since my honeymoon, that was the last time I had more than a week off. And you were like, I said, well, I'm thinking I might take, like 2 weeks. And you're like, no, dude, like
get bored.
Get bored. Exactly what you said. And you know me, I was ready to move my next thing the next morning.
Still well.
So I originally planned 30 days. That was kind of my goal. And at 30 days, I was still getting up at 3:45 in the morning. I was still making lists, although my lists were, take out the garbage, do the laundry, pick up the kids. They were a little different. Right. But I was still, in that mode. So took the whole summer off. It's such a blessing.
Yeah, good for you.
Traveled locally, did great stuff, saw friends, saw family. It was wonderful. So I'm moving on to what I love, which is speaking. Always loved it. I've always
you have a real
done
knack for that. You really do.
Thank you. I really, obviously I like to talk, but, I've always done it, but I've never done it for a living. And I was taking a course once, ironically called Speaking for Money. Right. And the guy said, you'll make money speaking when you have to. And I love that quote.
It's that time, huh?
Yeah, it's that time,
Well, and before we forget, and I'll post the link in the show notes to your book, but you've also authored a book, during all this. You also took
3 actually.
Just to so you've authored 3 books to just get some of this stuff out of your mind and onto paper, which I find to be super noble. I don't see how you do that either.
I don't know how I did it.
So you've authored 3 books. You're going to sort of leverage, maybe not the right term, but you're going to use those as a platform to stand on and take this message out, right? So what's your topic? What do you speak about?
Over the years I've spoken obviously about fitness and fat loss and all that, but I've moved into spirituality and exercise. I still do. It's interesting. I use my most popular talk is called Achieving BHAGs. You know that term, right? Yeah, big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yep.
And I use my training, my completing a 100-mile run, and also raising money for charity through it as a metaphor for achieving goals that you really don't think you can do.
Right.
And I talk about the business and I talk about everything. And I've spoken to sales groups, I've spoken to churches, I've spoken to, marketing people. How do you set yourself? Because everybody has these limiting beliefs.
Right.
And I'm 6'2", 200 pounds. Like I'm not a typical runner, right? To me, to be able to do that, there's hundreds of people that do it, but it was a big deal. And I use that in a presentation. And then I lead that into really how it's brought me closer to God. But it's funny because I sell the books and I get comments all the time about them. Atheists buy them, non-Christians, non-runners.
Like we talked about, you don't have, it's sort of your story of how you found your support group. It doesn't, for you, it's Catholicism. For someone else, it can be just anything, right?
Yeah.
So people need that community and that support system no matter what.
Absolutely.
All right.
So it's called Quiet the Noise, and that's really the theme. That's the book, and that's the website. And it's quietthenoisebook.com.
Okay. I'll post that in the show notes. So sorry. So next for you is if anybody's listening, Rami's a great speaker. If you need any motivational, person to come to a conference to speak. Yeah. I've heard you do it. It's amazing. So
and I love it. They say do something you would do for free. I'm not going to do Heather. I'm not doing it for free. If you're out there,
right?
But I'm really, I love it. I love it so much, and I'll do that. I still do nutritional consulting. Kept out of my non-compete. I kept some of those clients from Formwell. Right. I love it. I do it virtually now, which is great. Yep. Just do it on the phone. It's something I'm passionate about. We've talked about it a ton, and then I'm going to write more. But really, the speaking is going to be a thrust of the next career.
Good for you, man.
Super excited.
Well, listen, I don't know, I hope anyone else gets what I get from you, which is nothing but inspiration. So,
thanks.
And we're good friends. So I appreciate you, man, not only professionally, but as a friend as well. And thanks for coming on today.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. See ya.